Away to the world across the seas, where pirates all have law degrees.
Welcome once again to our second episode of Canon Law. I'm Travis Anderson, an attorney in Texas. Today, I thought we might explore a few issues that I often see happening when people call my office.
Pick up the file! Yo.
What's up?
Last time we talked about why you should hire an attorney and not be afraid to hire an attorney.
I don't want to hurt you guys.
So I thought today we would talk about some of the issues that arise in our daily lives.
You scratched my car!
Where?
Right there!
Oh, there. That's already there.
That may require some legal expertise or at least a phone call to a law office to have the issue assessed.
Data, data, data. I cannot make bricks without clay.
The first of those is when somebody loses their employment. Oftentimes we look at the case and we think, hey, I was just let go or laid off. Certain things you need to look at to make sure that has not happened unjustly or in violation of any law.
But is it against the law, though?
So people need to take careful attention as to what's going on in their employment. Now, it's obvious that if your supervisor doesn't like you, that your time working at that particular establishment may be limited.
No, but is it against the law, though?
So you might want to start counting the days and maybe looking for new employment as soon as your manager or your supervisor starts to manifest a hostile attitude.
It's just common sense.
But I would first of all advise that. Also, too, there are circumstances that if you can see the writing on the wall, will prevent an employer from being liable for a termination. So, for example, if you actually come to work one day at a retail establishment or other type location and see a closing or going out of business sign on the board,
Everything just in time for the holiday. All sales final.
obviously letting you go is not going to be in violation of any rule because this is going out of business. So you need to make sure that you're aware of what's going on as far as you can pay attention. You also need to make sure that you pay attention to any kind of aggressive behavior that seems to come out of nowhere. So if you're a dutiful employee and you notice that you're the only woman working at a small employment situation, you might want to take note if you start to encounter some negative behaviors because they may be a result of discrimination against you because of your sex.
Oh, I'm not such a bad guy.
You're a sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot.
So I have a few faults, who doesn't?
Now, also, too, these same behaviors can manifest as a consequence of somebody's skin color or where they're from. But in our current political climate, there's a lot of polarity happening in the United States, and I try to stay myself out of politics, but with respect to political opinions, people have certain perspectives that can influence how they treat others. And so as a consequence of that, it's important to be careful to notice that if somebody is treating you poorly, regardless of what your skin color is, if they're treating you poorly because of the color or shade of skin that you have.
That's racist.
That was racist.
Yeah, that's racist.
Oh, that is racist.
Certainly if somebody's treating you poorly because of your immigration status, meaning that you are an immigrant to this country and you have entered the country and are currently working on legalized status, then if an employer discriminates against you, they may face some kind of legal recourse because certainly you can't discriminate against somebody because they're in the country legally. Now, also too, you want to be careful that as an employee of any employer, you be on the lookout for any kind of an injury. I always encourage people that I represent that if you are injured to any degree, ensure that you report them. Now, some people say, what about a paper cut or something like that? Maybe not those.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch?
Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
You liar.
But let me give you an example. I represented a gentleman years ago who crawled into a dumpster. It was part of his job to ensure that the contents of these dumpsters were secure before he collected them. So he drove a large vehicle that would collect these dumpsters. And he crawled into one to kind of push the load down. And as a consequence, he felt a sharp pain in his thigh, and he kind of neglected it and didn't pay much attention to it. And over a process of time, it became septic. He developed an infection and was at risk of losing his leg. And so the employer says, well, you never reported that. In Texas specifically, there is a requirement that you report that injury within 30 days. There are other deadlines that may be applicable in your own jurisdiction. So make sure that if you work in an industry where injuries may be common, or it's possible that you come into contact with the ability to become injured, maybe you work a very physical job, that you make sure that if you are injured, you report those quickly to a supervisor. I always indicate that you need to document it. Please text them or email.
And make a fool out of me. I write it all down in this book. It goes down right here. Receipts here. Receipts here, bills here. Everything's here.
Can't tell you the number of cases that I've had that have been denied claims that I've been able to establish a case and a liability on behalf of the insurance carrier where they've paid benefits because of a text message or an email.
When you communicate with people, I'm talking outside of family now, be specific. Tell them what you need and what you want and why you're reaching out.
It's important to understand that these things need to be documented and kept. Additionally, if you're involved in any kind of legal situation, I always encourage people to make sure that they take careful attention to what arrives in the mail.
There it is, in the middle of the forest. Open it.
Oh, you open it, dude.
Okay. Here goes. What?
A lot of mail can be received when you're in any kind of legal situation that's time sensitive. So make sure that you're aware of that. So as people contact my office, I've had people come in that have just had me read documents they didn't understand.
Almost. There are a few provisos, a couple of quid pro quo.
I'm willing to do that. I don't know how many lawyers are, but I'm always willing to try to help people because as an attorney, it's my job to assist and aid. And sometimes that requires me spending a little bit more time on something that may not immediately prove to be a good case per se. But a good case to me is something where the person walks away happy. Now, other issues that happen in your daily life, of course, are vehicular collisions. Always take good note to take photos. I always tell people immediately after a collision, make sure you take photos. And funny enough, what often happens is that somebody will have a dent on their car, and the photo that I get is a very close-up picture of a dent in the side of a vehicle. Of course, that doesn't help me very much because I don't know where on the vehicle it is. I don't know what vehicle it is. So make sure that when you do take pictures of your photo of your car, that you're standing far enough back that we get the whole vehicle. You should take close-up photos as well, but make sure that we get a photo from a distance so we can see what your damage is to the bumper or whatever, and then get a closer view of that in a secondary photo. Don't simply just take photos of up close pictures of things. That's not helpful. Additionally, immediately you should seek medical treatment.
So Andy, tell me what happened. I was reading an encyclopedia and I tripped or fell over and hit my head, or brain helmet, you call it.
Yeah, he sneezed and smacked his head against the wall.
I'm not a doctor, no lawyer would try to diagnose or treat you, but our cases are developed as a consequence of the medical treatment that a person receives. So if you are seriously injured or even moderately injured, it's important that you go seek medical treatment immediately. Delays in medical treatment, they are really problematic. And not that it kills the case necessarily, but it can certainly affect the outcome in that insurance companies and defendants who defend these cases will question heavily any kind of injury that you sustain when it takes you days or even weeks to return to a doctor to get treatment for it. So make sure you go quickly.
Maybe not exactly run to the hospital, but people often concerned with, exchanging information, taking pictures of their car, which are all great things, and I would recommend that you do that. But assess yourself physically. Think, how am I feeling? Am I hurt? Do I need medical treatment?
Sure.
Within a very short period of time, a few hours, you probably need to go seek medical treatment, get checked out.
Right.
Additionally, you're going to want to make sure you contact an attorney so you can start the ball rolling with respect to establishing any kind of case or claim. Also, too, you're not going to want to be giving recorded statements or any kind of statement at all to anybody who's in the opposition.
No.
And everybody wants to know.
Mort, we ain't gonna talk about that.
Interview to be over.
Interview's over.
Oftentimes people think that if I'm really, really honest and I'm really, really sincere and upfront, then that's going to help me on my case. But remember, an adverse party, especially an insurance company, just wants to keep their money in their own pocket, and disclosing a significant amount of information to them in a recorded statement or question answer situation where they're documenting what you say, they're going to use that information to try to reduce the amount they owe you, and they're going to try to reduce the value of the claim because that's their job. It's not that they're doing something malicious, it's that they're doing something consistent with what their job is.
Anything else bothering you?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've got a weird rash in my knee pit area, and my tongue on this side doesn't taste anything anymore. Sometimes when I walk, my ankles make like a weird rattlesnake sound.
So those are a couple of issues that arise. Many other legal questions can arise in addition to employment situations or travel. When you're out shopping, people fall, things happen in premises. So if you go into a business, for example, businesses have a duty in the state of Texas to make sure that the place that they invite you into, so they're enticing you to come and shop at their store. And of course, they thereafter have an obligation to ensure your safety while you're in the store. Now, that doesn't mean they have to follow you around. It just means that if there is any problem, any defect, any broken stuff in the store that may cause injury, they need to repair those things and at the very least make you aware, block those things off. There was a terrible case a while back in Texas. I didn't personally handle it, but the facts were that somebody was at a trampoline park, one of those places where you go in and jump on the trampoline indoor. And as a consequence, they had a tear in one of those, and it was at an angled situation where a person could climb to the top and slide on either side, and then of course they were supposed to fall on a trampoline on the other end. But at one side of it, in the angle where it was angled up, it was cut, and the child jumped up and slowed down and actually went through the trampoline material and slammed his head into the concrete. It was pretty horrible. And this amusement place knew about it. They were aware of the cut. And what they did is they simply put some tape over it. And that's just not sufficient. So it's important to make sure that you understand that these issues can become immediately very complicated in analyzing who's at fault and, more importantly, the degree to which they're at fault. And that's why I always encourage people to consult with an attorney. But these are some issues you need to be aware of and take note of. And so that's why it's always a good idea to get in touch with somebody who's a professional and trained to help guide you through these processes. So as you do that, I need to encourage you to take care of yourself and take care of your health. That's the most important thing. But please, in the comments, please let me know what other legal issues or other legal problems you'd like me to address. If you've got some interesting videos you want me to analyze, please post the links in the comments below, and I'll do my best to review those with you. Also, too, we'll be doing some lives in the future. And again, I'm Travis with Spencer Anderson here in Texas. Our phone number is 210-699-0004. And thanks again for coming to Canon Law.
My mind rebels at stagnation. Give me problems. Give me work. Give me the most abstruse cryptogram, the most intricate analysis, and I'm in my proper atmosphere.
Away to the world across the seas. where pilots all have law degrees.